Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Wendy Ivy Martinez and I am a geek. And today we are here ranking popular romances, romanticises, and other books like that of that nature by spice level. So not by how much I enjoyed them, not by how much I think they're worth the hype, but purely off of spice. So let's just go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so here we have my tier ranks starting from, we'll start at the bottom. So starting from the bottom, we have vanilla. My mom could read this without blushing. That means pure vanilla, no spice in it. It has literally no spice at all whatsoever. Next we have mild tomato sauce, fade to black scene. So this is when the spice is automatically fade to black. It's not spicy at all. It just fades to black. Next we have buffalo sauce. Spice is there, but it still needs a little something. You know what I mean? Like when you have buffalo sauce, like it has the right amount of like acidness and it tingles, but it doesn't spice enough. Next we have hot Cheetos. The spice is there and it burns good. This is when there is a good amount of spice mixed with plot, or the spice is just there and it's really good and written really well and it's balanced out with the plot. And next we have super hot, which is Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. This is pure smut. So let's go ahead and get started. First we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This book was so good. It was one of my favorites of last year. It talks about this curmudgeon professor and it's like an enemies to lovers with like these fairies. This one had romance a little bit, but not spice. So I'm going to put it in vanilla. My mom could read this without blushing. There was mention of smut, but there wasn't any smut. Actually, I'll put mild tomato sauce because there was mention of smut. Next we have Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is a very popular like Booktok series about a vampire, about this like human that's like raised by vampires, and she is basically sent to compete in this like competition with other vampires, and she obviously is a human, so she doesn't have the same strength as a vampire does. So she is she teams up with a vampire. This one had a good, feel like the spice, actually no, you know what, this was right. This is like perfectly good. This is hot Cheetos. The spice is there and it burns good because I feel like it had like a good balance of spice and plot. Next we have Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This is a dark romance, non-con, and it had a lot of spice. This had a lot of spice. It had plot, but I feel like it was very much more spice based. So I'm going to put it in super hot, Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. This was smut. Okay, this was smut. Speaking of smut, we have Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. This is another dark romance where we follow our main character Sibby, and she is basically a serial unaliver, and it is a why choose romance with multiple men, and I never realized that I needed this in my life. And I loved it. It was pure smut. It did have a good balance of plot, like the plot was still there, but it did have much more smut than plot. So I am going to be putting it in a super hot Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. Next we have Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I didn't read Icebreaker just because I don't have any interest in reading like a hockey romance, but I did want to read this one because it's about like camp counselors, and I remember growing up and going to like summer camp, and then I was always wondering like if like the like counselors would get together and if they had romances. So this like helped with that like curiosity. I enjoyed it. I feel like there was spice in it, but it wasn't like all spice. Does that make sense? I'm gonna put buffalo sauce. Like the spice was there. It wasn't fade to black, but it was more like romancy than like spicy, if that makes any sense. Next we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is a small town romance where we follow our main character Naomi as she goes after her sister, and her sister's like good for nothing. She basically steals all her stuff, leaves her with the niece that she didn't know she had, and now Naomi's like stuck there, and she meets this guy named Knox. It is a grumpy sunshine small town romance. I feel like it did have a lot of good, a lot of spice in there, but the plot was still there as well. Had that like really good balance. Next we have Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is a sort of like drama sort of story. Like there is spice and there is plot. There's a good amount of both. I want to say this is pretty balanced. I didn't enjoy the story, but there is a good balance. So I'm going to put it in Hot Cheetos as well because I feel like it's there was a few smut scenes in there, but it was balanced out with plot. That one was balanced out with plot. Next we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic romance in which we follow our main character Delilah as she has to go back to her hometown to like shoot these photos for her sister's wedding, and she doesn't want to go back, but she's offered a good amount of money, so she has no choice but to say yes. And then she runs into a old crush, and this was really good. I actually really enjoyed this book a lot. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. It does have smut and it's written well, but again, I feel like it's more romance based than smut based, and the plot was there, but the plot is a romance. So I want to say buffalo sauce. I feel like it could have used a little bit more spice. Next we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. This is a cozy fantasy where we follow this orc as she opens up a dream coffee shop that she wants to open. It is very like low stakes, cozy fantasy, and I enjoyed this one a lot. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. However, there is no spice in it at all. There is only like a hint of romance that's like mentioned, but there's no spice. So I'm gonna put it in so vanilla that my mom could read this without blushing. And you guys, my mom is Catholic, so I should put that, like, my mom is not one for smut at all. So next we have Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is a dark romance retelling of Captain Hook and Wendy Darling, and it has like kind of like a mob romance sort of vibe going on. He like kidnaps Wendy Darling. This had a lot of smut in it. I'm gonna put it under Super Hot's Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. The plot was there, but I feel like this is again more smut based. Like this is for people that like enjoy smut. So I'm going to put that there. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Next we have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This was a book in which we follow our main character. It's very like driven off of like our very character driven. She got out of jail. She wants to be with her daughter, but her daughter was taken away from her after an incident happened, and now she doesn't have her daughter with her, but she's trying everything in her power to get to know her daughter. And it is again another small town romance. I really did enjoy this one. It's more plot based and not really too much romance based. I think there was a little bit of smut, but I don't remember it too much. So I'm going to put it in buffalo sauce. Spice is there, but it's still missing a little something. Don't go in this book waiting for spice. It's not going to happen. Same thing with November 9th. November 9th is another one that I remember reading. It wasn't too spicy. I don't think it had Fade to Black. I think there was a smut scene in there if I recall, but I don't think it was like too intense. But it wasn't Fade to Black, so I'm going to put it under buffalo sauce as well. Next we have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is a forced proximity, enemies to lovers sort of situation, fake dating as well. This was Fade to Black actually, if I remember correctly. This was a Fade to Black book, and I was so mad. I was like, wait, what? I thought maybe like the audiobook just sort of like skipped over it. But no, Christina Lauren apparently writes Fade to Black romances. I didn't enjoy that at all. And yeah, it lost a lot of stars because I was expecting smut and I didn't get any. So it is Fade to Black. So go in there expecting mild tomato sauce. Next we have The Never King on the opposite side of the spectrum. The Never King by Nikki St. Croix. This is a Why Choose Peter Pan Wendy retelling. And this was super hot. Super hot. Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. This was no plot, just spice. All right, so I'm gonna move a little bit. I'm gonna put Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies down in vanilla because I don't even think it had a Fade to Black scene, to be honest. This is a cozy fantasy. So I'm moving that down there. And now we're going to go with In 5 Years by Rebecca Serrell. This is a story where we follow our main character who dreams about this like man, an intimate night with a man, and then she thinks it's just a dream, but then she ends up meeting the guy, and it's like her friend's boyfriend. So this is a romance. It does have smut, but not really any. I'm gonna put this under Buffalo Sauce as well because it didn't have too much smut in it, but it did have a scene or two, I should say. Written in the Stars by Alexandra Bellafleur. This is another sapphic romance that is a beautiful like fake dating trope. I enjoyed this one. It was like a 3 out of 5 star for me. I felt like something was lacking, not just within like the spiciness, but also within like the plot. I just felt like it was missing something. So I'm actually going to put this in Buffalo Sauce as well. Just because, yes, I did feel like it was lacking a bit of spice. Next we have The Love Hypothesis. And this one had one smut scene, but it was a whole chapter long. Okay, so once we got to the smut, like the smut stayed. So I'm actually gonna put this in Hot Cheetos because even though it was one scene, it was very, very graphic and it lasted for quite a while. So I'm gonna put it under Hot Cheetos. The spice is there and it burns good because I felt like it was just done just right. It was just done right. Next we have A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'm actually confused about where I should put this one, to be honest with you. I want to put it in Buffalo Sauce, but at the same time, because it did have a little few descriptions, but at the same time, nothing really happened. So I'm actually going to put it in Fade to Black because it did end up fading to black. It was descriptive very briefly, and then it faded to black, so I'm going to put it in Fade to Black. Next we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It was very Buffalo Saucy, okay? It had plot, but it had spice. Next we have Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This is one that I'm going to say again, I'm going to put it in Buffalo Sauce. Next we have That Time That I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. This book was so good. Oh my gosh, by Kimberly Lemme. Fantasy romance, and I enjoyed it so much. I'm gonna say it was in Hot Cheetos because it had spice and the spice was written really well, but it wasn't like over the top, and I felt like it went really in line with like the plot. I don't know, it was done really well. I really enjoyed it. Next we have Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. I'm going to put this one in Buffalo Sauce because the spice was there, but again, it wasn't too over the top. So I'm going to put it here under Buffalo Sauce. Buffalo Sauce. Next we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was a YA book that had like kind of, I guess, a love triangle-ish vibe. I don't even think it had a Fade to Black scene, to be honest with you. Like, I think this was just like pure vanilla, so I'm gonna put it under vanilla. Next we have A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I'm between putting in this one in Hot Cheetos and Super Hot because it did have a lot of spice in it, but you did get a lot of plot as well. You know what? I'm gonna put this one in Hot Cheetos because I feel like the first one did have an equal amount of like plot and smut. It did still have a lot of smut, but it didn't overpower the main plot that we had going on. However, afterwards, the second one had a lot more smut, so that one I would put in Super Hot, but this one had like a good balance, I feel. Next we have Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. I love my Hades and Persephone's retellings. This one has, once you get more into it, as long as you're reading the webtoon and not the actual physical, it does get a little bit spicy, but it is more Fade to Black. So I'm actually going to put this in Mild Tomato Sauce, Fade to Black. This is very like YA friendly, but it still has that like slow burn romance that we all love, and it's Hades and Persephone. So of course I'm gonna read this. Next we have Guild by Raven Kennedy. This is the first book in the Plated Prisoner series. This book was spicy, okay? But it didn't take away from the plot. Like, once the plot got there, the plot was there. So I'll probably put it in super hot because it did contain a lot of like smut scenes. But the plot was there. I'll put it in super hot. Okay, I heard that it gets, I'm gonna put it in super hot because it did have a lot of smut. Next we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This was another one that I really enjoyed. However, this is a sapphic romance where this like girl is like stuck on this train, but she's like stuck back in time. It's one of those time loops, and you know I love my time loop romances. However, I remember again listening to the audiobook, and I don't know if it's just the audiobook that I was listening to, but it faded to black and I was so mad by that. So I'm going to put it under mild tomato sauce because I remember it fading to black. I could be wrong, and it could have just been because I got it from Libby and they don't want to put that on there, but I don't think I was wrong. Next we have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a romance, but it doesn't even have fade to black. Like, it's just a cute romance. Like, even my daughter reads this and she's 12, and it's super vanilla. It's super vanilla, but super adorable, and I highly recommend it for anyone. I absolutely love it. On the contrary, we have Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This has smut. This has smut, okay? This has smut. We're just gonna put it under, it has a lot of smut. So this is gonna go under super hot. And I'm noticing a pattern with these like super hot books. Do you see the pattern? Do you see the pattern? They're all black covers. Little black books. Next we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is more action-based. This is specifically the first one. I don't even think it had a fade to black scene. So I'm actually going to put this in pure vanilla. So the first book was pure vanilla. As the story goes on, it becomes more and more adult. Once you get to the 5th book, it does have a descriptive smut scene. So, but as for the first few, it's like no smut, pure vanilla, and then it's like fade to black, and then eventually you do get the smut. Next we have The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This did have smut. I feel like, but not too much of it. So I'm gonna put it under buffalo sauce because it did have the smut. It wasn't fade to black, but it wasn't like a huge part of the storyline. So I'm gonna put it here. And then next we have Unhinged, which is an erotic door romance by Vera Valentine. This is a short story. I actually really enjoyed this, and this gets a lot of shiznit because this is a door that transforms into a person, and she gets freaky with the door at first. It's super hot, Sweet Carolina Reaper, but it doesn't take itself seriously. So as long as you don't take it seriously, you'll have a great time reading this. Next is Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This book was super hot, Sweet Carolina Reaper. I love the way that Penelope Douglas writes her spice. I loved it. I ate this shiznit up. It is going in super hot, Holy Sweet Carolina Reaper. And last, but certainly not least, we have Fourth Wing, the most epic romantasy of all time in my eyes. The best book ever in my eyes. This is going to be Hot Cheetos. The first book only had like 2, as I was saying before my camera died on me again because Sony likes to do that. This book had the perfect amount of smut. Yes, it only had 2 smut scenes, but when it's enemies to lovers slow burn, and this woman makes you work for that smut, but once it's there, this is literally the best smut scene that I have ever read in my whole entire life. It's still, I read this book last year in July, and that scene still plays rent-free in my head. My little noggin. It still plays rent-free in my little noggin. I'll just be listening to a certain song and it just like triggers that scene, and I'm like, oof, so good, so good. Hot Cheetos, the spice is there and it burns good. Best smut scene I've ever read in my life. So anyways, you guys, that is it. That is my list of tier ranking popular Booktok romances based solely off of spice level. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys catch on to the fact that a lot of the super hot, holy, sweet Carolina Reaper books are black covers? So now you know, if you want to read romance and it's a black cover, it's probably gonna be smutty. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. And yes, so I will see you in the next one. Bye!